you've created an account, you can select, let's say this is a default contract for data sharing. So again, this is all hypothetical, but we've been sort of sketching this out to see what kind of functionality we could test now what people might want to do. So the first thing you can do is set a default resource sharing contract. And I've made these up and I've made them look like Creative Commons, if you're familiar with that. So we've got one that's no selling, no caching, indemnity, version 1. So that imagines that you're imposing on someone, well, you can have my address, but you can't sell it. And you can't cache it beyond a certain period. There's legal language presumably behind this, just like there is behind Creative Commons. There's even a commercial version 1.3 where you can set payment details. Yeah, you can have a whole bunch of demographic data about me, but you got to pay me $5 every time. On the bottom left, you see choose how long to allow access, indefinitely until I stop it, ending on some date, or just one time. You can successfully grab data one time. And on the bottom right, choose automatic versus manual sharing. Share automatically or contact me because I have first right of refusal. So if somebody, let's say I publish on my blog a link to some information about me that looks for all the world like anybody can go grab the information. No, what if it is protected by CopMonkey? In that case, anybody who walks up and tries to access it, I might just want to vet them first. Okay. So these are just possibilities here. Another set of possibilities, speaking of analytics, well, what if you could have a digital footprint dashboard that gives you a global view onto all the data sharing that you have authorized and under what conditions and who got the data. And by the way, if you're able to seed that data so that you can track it, I'm not going to go in the direction of DRM here, but if you could actually seed the data and you know who got the data and you thereafter find evidence that it's been inappropriately sold or leaked or whatever, you've got a contract, you've made sure it's binding. I'm probably not going to have enough time today to go into how it becomes binding, but you start to have something that you can go into court with. And that's one of the things that helps empower individuals in a more even fashion. So we've just given some examples here. What sites have access to a specific resource, like a travel calendar? What legal jurisdictions is your data traveling to? You can just look at IP addresses and get an idea. And then you can manage contracts and policies per hosting site, things like that. So this is, probably a good idea for citizens. There's people talking about citizen dashboards for citizens of the net, for employees who need to do some permissioning of data sharing in the employment context, for cloud developers in mashing up data sets and applications, even for B2B situations. So open ecosystems like this one that I would like to see exist need interoperability. And some colleagues and I got together and put together a draft proposal for a web protocol that we call ProtectServe. If anyone's seen the movie Demolition Man, you'll know where the name comes from. And the ProtectServe protocol is just in draft form now, as I said, but it is trying to be a simple, secure, efficient, RESTful, OAuth-based solution that can make this relationship manager come about. And so right now in this picture, below Relationship Manager, we see what OAuth gives us today. What ProtectServe gives us is the notion of an endpoint that's an authorization manager. Really, this is a policy decision point and a policy administration point. Okay? Whereas the service provider would be a policy enforcement point to the requesting consumer on the right side. Now, there's lots of different use cases. I'm going to run out of time to share them all with you, but a relationship manager doesn't have to just be in charge of this endpoint. It could also have some onboard storage of self-asserted information. It could also have some onboard ability for you to accept data from others, maybe with a contract attached, so that you can keep track of what contracts you've agreed to. And I mentioned the commercial, data for pay option before. You start seeing the possibilities of a peer-to-peer data commerce network. Little hints of that in this picture. Don't definitely have time for this. I'll give you a URL if you're interested to look at more detail about this idea. But let me just make one more prediction here before letting you know where we're going with all this work. I talked about a peer-to-peer data sharing network. Use cases abound for being in control of information you're sharing, whether you're a person or actually whether you're a vendor, whether you're a nonprofit agency, no matter who you are. So I'd like to suggest that user-driven access control will influence the enterprise because of the earlier prediction I made. And so the question I kind of want to leave you with is, are we looking at the future of entitlement management where it's now turned into an Enterprise 2.0 proposition? So in case you're interested in following this work and giving us use cases and telling us why we're crazy, we're going to be working on use case development at the Internet Identity Workshop in the Bay Area, May 18th through 20th, and I hope we'll see some of you there. We're planning to start a work group in the new Kantara initiative, and that's going to happen real soon. And the colleagues that I've been working with are actually colleagues who do OpenSSO development. And if you were at the OpenSSO Community Day earlier today, you heard that we've been working on an OAuth implementation there. And that's a great basis for actually doing implementation work. And I hope to see actually multiple implementations in the world. So with that, I'll end it here. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Eve. I love this, smilingly and in a very feminine way. She is actually turning the world on its head, isn't she?
Troublemaker, that's what they call me.
No, well, I do have one question, though. It seems to me from a consumer perspective, we talk a lot about consumer empowerment and user empowerment on the web and stuff, but I mean the deck still is stacked in the favor of the powers that be they vendors, be they authorities, be they employers or so. What you're proposing actually is turning all this on its head. And
I think there's a long shot aspect to this, and there's two asymmetries that we really see. One is little person, big company or enterprise or whatever it is. The other is browser web server, essentially. There's an asymmetry that's technical and architectural. And the notion of relationship manager and an authorization manager is to even the odds technically. But when it comes to the contract stuff, without somebody disruptive wanting to make a really interesting business model out of this, I think the odds of really making it even are slimmer.
Yeah. Well, back in the McCarthy era, you would have been labeled a commie and probably stuck in jail. Yeah. One comment. I think the Cup Monkey website still needs some serious usability work done to it. It kind of reminds me of Vista.
Yeah, I will say my colleague, who's a professional interaction designer, tried to help me with like 5 minutes of her time, and I'm going to try and buy her a beer and get more attention.
Very good. Okay. Thank you very much, Eve.